This movie was brought to you by DwayneWright.com, FileMaker Framework Solutions, virtual one-on-one FileMaker training, consulting, and custom design services. For more information, please visit www.DwayneWright.com. Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about a number of changes that were done to your database in response to the emails correspondence that we've had going back and forth. In particular, we're going to talk about some changes that were done to the tenants module to better handle things like when a tenant moves out and handling of deposits and that type of thing. We're going to talk about a new rent status flag, and I've added that to both the tenants module and the apartment units module. We're going to talk about changes to the payment dialog box, and this is mostly used to facilitate, again, the notifications on whether or not a rent is due from a tenant or rent is due for a apartment. And then we'll talk a little bit about two modules that were removed. That would be the vendors module and the application module. And then talk a little bit about one little feature that I just added in called the set reminder feature. Okay, so let's go ahead and navigate over to our tenants module. And here you can see that we do have, one tenant that has been entered into the database. And what we've done is a couple of changes in here, the status, the rent, and the rent status fields. The status is important that we have, this put in. They can be active, they can be inactive, and we'll talk a little bit about this later on, but we did remove the applications module because to me it seemed like it was a lot of redundant data entry as far as the address and the employer and that type of thing. And you're probably going to keep that in a hard copy format. So now you can enter in a tenant, but put them in as an applicant. And now they can work in with the rest of the database. You can quickly add activities to them, take deposits, all the types of information when someone is not quite a tenant yet. So a little bit leaner activity. It also comes into play when we decide whether or not they are overdue in their rent payment. So here you can see we've also added in the ability for a particular tenant to have multiple rentals. And this is done mostly just because they may rent an apartment and they may rent a garage as well, or a shed or that type of thing. They also may have rented one unit for one time and now have moved into another one, and you want to be able to see the history of what that tenant has rented with you. So we broke that up a little bit. The next big change is this used to just be called forwarding info, and we are starting to uncover more needs. Now, the deposits that you see here, this information is actually linked to the active apartment that they have done. So these will change if the person moves from one unit to the next unit. And then we added the forwarding address over here. Now, there was an express need that you may want to track other information that goes out on whether or not the customer has getting due money back from their security deposits and damage that may have happened to the building and a lot of other ancillary pieces of information. So what I would like for you to do is to take a look at this screen and visualize what other data entry fields that you may want to have in here or other button actions that you might want to have in this area. Send them to me in an email and we will work these back and forth and go ahead and evolve this tab to cover all the needs that you need for when a tenant moves out. And that's all I'm going to cover in this particular movie. We'll cover this again when we start talking about posting a rent payment and the changes that were done with the rent dialog box and how that impacts both the tenant and the apartment unit modules. Do you have questions or comments about the video you just saw? Please feel free to email me at info@dwaynewright.com. Thank you.